my name is Kat. Welcome back to my channel. I am a dietitian and camper, and this evening, I guess, my partner Ed and I are going to attempt some winter camping. So currently it is the beginning of December, and this weekend I really wanted to go and backpack a trail that was nearest towards some waterfalls, but Ed has talked some sense into me because the weather was potentially going to get pretty nasty this weekend, so we decided to postpone the trip and actually test out some of our gear and sleeping systems before we went into the backcountry and did it. So he's definitely being the voice of reason. He's also being the cameraman right now, so thank you, Ed. But because we are making some changes to our sleep system because it is so much colder, I wanted to talk about them. Other than our sleep systems, the gear is going to be pretty similar to what we brought to the sand dunes, which I already did a whole video over, so I will link that in the cards. But here's what we're changing. And some old stuff, because some of it's just rearranged. So firstly, our bags are going to be the same. So we're starting with Ed's sleep system. This is the bag he's going to be using. Again, this bag has been loaned to us, so I'm not entirely sure what the temperature rating is, but I am very willing to bet that it's either a 15 or 0 degree bag, just because we're in Colorado, so are the people who loaned this to us, so they've got on some pretty cold weather trips themselves as well. The only thing that makes me think it's not a 0 degree bag is there's no draft collar and no draft tube, so I'm leaning more towards 15, but either way, it's a pretty warm bag. It's a synthetic one, if you're wondering. So that's what he will be sleeping in. He will be sleeping on top of the pads that we brought to the sand dunes, but stacked on top of each other. I'm pretty sure the R value for at least this one is pretty low, just because it's such a thin piece of foam, and it's got so many of these little diamond cutouts in it that there's not a lot of foam once you account for how much of it has been cut out. So I'm pretty sure that the R value for at least this one is only like a 2, and again, it's December in Colorado. I think it's going to get down to about like 16 tonight, so that's going to be pretty cold. So we're going to be stacking those 2 sleeping pads. This Swiss Gear one is probably a little bit better. It's definitely thicker, and it's still self-inflating foam, which the R values on those ones, from what I've seen, tend to be pretty good. So between the 2 of them, hopefully he'll be warm tonight. If not, then you'll know later. And this one also has the built-in pillow up here, but we have also picked up an inflatable camp pillow for Ed as well. I will be sleeping, again, with the same sleeping bag. This one I know for sure is a 0 degree bag. It is also synthetic, and it does have a draft collar and a draft tube in it, and both of the hoods cinch down on both of them, so I'll be sleeping in this again. And one of the new pieces of gear that I got while REI was having one of their big sales is this Nemo Tensor insulated pad, ultralight pad, and I'm very hopeful for it because I've heard so many good reviews from so many different YouTubers, and even just the reviews like on REI and Nemo, those sites itself, it's really highly rated. And a couple of those people, like reviews I've watched, have owned the pad for many, many years, and it's still held up really well for them. So I have a lot of high hopes for this pad. But for tonight, my hope is just that it stays warm. This has an R value of 4.2, so it should be warm enough, I'm hoping. It's got the Mylar suspended inside of it, and even with that in there, it's actually not too loud. Like, we went and squish tested some of the other sleeping pads at REI, and like the Neo Air X Lite and some of those ones that are really lightweight and also warm were just super loud. It's kind of like we were crunching on a bag of chips. So I'm, again, very hopeful that this will be comfortable and quiet, but still warm. And I got the regular width in the like standard length because I'm only 5'7", so I don't need the longer one. And the tent that I want in the future for Ed and I has a 70-inch floor, so there would be room for 2 25-inch pads and a 20, and because I'm a sucker for my dog and the dog pad I want to get him is 25 inches, I opted to be the one who gets the short end, short end of the deal, and stick with the 20-inch wide pad for myself. So hopefully it won't be too uncomfortable. I know a lot of people have said that like 25-inch pads have made a huge difference in their sleep, but I love my dog, so I'm going to let him have a 25-inch pad and Ed have a 25-inch wide sleeping pad, and I'll take the 20. So that's what I've got. And then for Perry, this is where my biggest concerns came in, because last time I took him camping, he was cold at night. And I didn't like that at all because the poor guy was shivering. and it made me feel really bad. So last time I took Perry camping, I was able to bring his regular dog bed because it was car camping and when it didn't need to be packable, so I just brought one of his regular, like the big old fluffy, just stick on the floor kind of beds for him, and I put under it, to give it some insulation from the ground, Ed and I's chipper sit pads, which have an R value of 2. It's the same as any like Z-Lite or Switchback or whatever closed cell phone sleeping pad that you would have, so it's just an R value of 2. But I was hoping between his bed and these being laid under it like this, would have kept him warm, but it did not. And when I was camping with him last time, it was only 45 degrees at night. So I was pretty concerned about this hopefully upcoming trip, but for tonight just testing out all of our gear. So I was pretty concerned about that, and I didn't really think it would be enough. So instead of just having these 2 little chipper pads, I went ahead and picked up a big, like full-sized Nemo Switchback closed cell phone pad. And I picked this up because I want it for myself anyway, so that if we go like super deep winter camping when it's really cold and really snowy, I can just layer this under my air pad and use it to stack the warmth for myself. But for now and for tonight, in the future, I want to get Perry like the Roughwear dog sleeping bag and sleeping pad. Again, that's the 25-inch wide dog sleeping pad. I want to get this from him in the future, but this is a lot cheaper to pick up in the meantime. So this is what I picked up. So I think I will have him sleeping on this tonight. It's just a lot more surface area. I don't want him to necessarily be curled up into a teeny tiny little bean trying to fit on top of the 2 sit pads. And because he doesn't need the full length, I can fold it back on itself and double it up like this, and then have him sleep on just this area of it while it's doubled up. So that's what he's going to be sleeping on top of tonight. And then I will be putting his little fleece jacket on. I think he needs some better outdoor clothing because that fleece is pretty thin, and I just don't think it was enough to keep him warm last time I took him camping, again when it was much warmer. So we are also going to be bringing my rumble blanket, which I always bring anyways because I love it. And hopefully he will be okay with us putting it over him. Typically, he doesn't like things put over him. He's not an under the blankets kind of dog, but I'm hoping that if it's chilly enough and he realizes that this is going to give him some warmth, it'll work, because last time I went camping, when he got cold, I was able to just unzip my sleeping bag and pull part of it over him and just snuggle him up to me. So he was okay with being under something for that, and I think a big part of it was because he realized that he was warming up and that he wasn't going to be cold anymore, and he even fell back asleep like that. So hopefully he'll be able to sleep on top of the switchback, fold it over onto itself so it's got double the thickness, and hopefully because of that maybe double the insulation, and then have the rumple over him. Now Ed and I have got to go set it up, so we'll see you then. Currently Ed and I have a fire pit that we're going to cook our dinner over. The corn on the cob is actually in there already. We have these little things called Brazzy Bites that we're cooking in the oven that he just went inside to get. And we probably are going to wrap our brats, they're Beyond Meat brats, so they're not actually meat, but brats, in some foil and stick them in here too, because they were frozen, because we weren't sure when we were going to do a fire pit, but we figured if we were going to postpone our backpacking trip, we may as well have a little campfire cookout while we're testing our camping gear. So they're still semi-frozen, so we're just going to wrap them up in foil and do that. I also have us wearing what would have been our camp clothes. So I have my thermal leggings and my thermal shirt and my mid-layer. We're also sitting on top of our chipper pads and our camp chairs to help insulate our little booties from the wind. It's working pretty well so far. Alright, coming to you from behind the gear loft with my doggy. So tonight we are in a 2-person tent that we've been borrowing, so our pad geometry isn't exactly how I described wanting it in the 3-person tent that I want to buy. So essentially Ed's pads are stacked just like I said they were going to be, and mine's right next to it, and instead of having the closed cell phone pad next to us where a 3rd person would be, we've actually flipped it horizontally, put it under both our pads so that Perry sleeping at our feet, if he sleeps like, if he, wedges in between our sleeping pad, he's not right on the ground because of it. So there's that. We've got the rumple halfway on him. He's doing pretty well actually with having the blanket be on him and him being okay with it. And yeah, we are going to see how warm it keeps us. You've got eye boogies, buddy. There you go. We're going to see how warm it keeps us, and we will let you guys know in the morning how it went. Alright, so it is the next evening. We spent last night outside in the backyard. It didn't get as cold as 16 degrees. I checked the weather, and it changed it to only going down to about 30, which is good and bad. I would have liked to have been able to test those sleeping bags and pads at that lower temperature, but I was also a little bit chilly, so maybe that wouldn't have been a good thing. So I was a little bit chilly, and I'm not entirely sure why, because it was kind of odd, because it wasn't cold coming up from the ground, and like the top of me was warm, but it was like the sides of my sleeping bag were kind of chilly. So I thought that was really weird. I was like, where is this cold coming from? Like, I wasn't up against the side of the tent or anything. So I'm not entirely sure what that was about, but after I put my down jacket back on, after I had gotten up to use the bathroom, I just left that jacket on, and then I was fine for the rest of the night. So that was okay for me. My sleeping pad was quite comfortable. I definitely moved like from side to side throughout the night, and it was pretty comfy, so that's good for me. How was your night?
Oh, I think the sleeping pads were both did pretty good. I think maybe one of them needed to be maybe slightly more inflated. I found when I was doing my rolling on my side that my hips would seem to get a little bit colder, kind of push through a little bit. I also got a little bit of that side sleeping bag thing, and I think that's because the sleeping bag I was using, I think parts of it were probably hanging off of the sleeping pads at some time, and so I think they were probably just going in contact with the ground for a little bit, and then I'd roll over or something, and then come into contact with some of that colder bag stuff. The bag was a little too big for me anyway, and so like I was getting some draftiness by my feet as well. But it kept me warm, and I didn't zip it all the way, and so I got a little side cold that way too. But I appreciated the flexibility that gave me with kind of, and I started the night with the pillow inside the cowl because I wasn't really thinking about it, and I was mostly just trying to kind of lay down and get things squared away. I did move it out. The pillow stayed in place, which was really nice, even outside of it, and was really like it was a game changer especially for the side sleeping stuff. I think I might need to like bolster behind my knees a little bit because I did get like a little bit of lower back tension, I guess, partway through, and I think so maybe just raising the knees a little bit or doing something a little different when I'm laying on my back using the pillow, I think might make a little difference there. But anyway, yeah, like I think like the sleep system felt warm enough for the most part. Couple of what I already said notwithstanding.
Yeah. I wonder if the temperature difference between in here where we blew the pads up and outside maybe like deflated them a little.
I wonder,
just because the like warm air would have cooled off and taken up less space.
That makes sense. That could have been.
Because I had to put more air in my pad.
I do remember that. Yeah, and I thought about it at one point, but I was too busy trying to sleep.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I thought it was funny that because I saw that you had your sleeping bag like partially undone while I was over there like cinching down my hood and like getting further down into my bag, which worked great. Like the hood and the draft collar definitely made a big difference in my bag in a very warm, positive way. So I really liked that. Which is one thing that'll be interesting to see because I just showed Ed a video on what backpacking quilts are, which don't have hoods. So figuring out something for that, either like a beanie or they make
well,
like,
yeah,
hoods
that's what
for
I did.
it.
For about half the night, I went without the beanie, and then my head was a little bit cold, especially after I got up for the bathroom, and so then I wore the beanie for a while, and then I warmed right back up, and everything was fine again.
Yeah, and like a lot of quilt manufacturers will also sell like down or synthetic insulation hoods for you to wear like at night, and they're like a balaclava type, so they have like some neck coverage.
Gotcha.
too.
Yeah, get your shoulders.
Yeah, basically cover everything that a hood on a bag would have.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of funny because I'm like, if you add that into the weight of your quilt, are you still like saving a lot of weight over the sleeping bag? But whatever, if it's more comfortable.
If weight is the specific reason you're going for, I guess. But yeah. Maybe if it's because I didn't like fighting. I don't like fighting the zipper.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of interested in quilts because they're zipper free and and like, I don't know, I kind of like the way that it looks as far as being able to roll around in it and stuff. Because I did run into a little bit of that with the bag too, I think.
Yeah, because I sleep on either side, like both sides
yeah.
throughout the night, so I can definitely do the like 180 roll, which is kind of irritating in a sleeping bag. Because I don't roll like in my sleeping bag. I take the sleeping bag with me so that I don't end up with my face just like facing the middle of the hood and not the opening of the hood. So I think I would be definitely interested in the like more free form aspect of quilts. But I'm definitely curious about if my head is going to get too cold. I'm going to whine about it. But we'll see. The dog.
Yeah.
Perry, he did really well. I'm kind of surprised because he still didn't sleep with a blanket on him, but he did a lot, like he wasn't shivering throughout the night. He slept, it was kind of cute, but also kind of annoying because he wanted to sleep right in between our feet. So at first he kind of pushed our sleeping pads apart, which made me kind of worried because then there would be like a gap where he would be just on the ground basically, which is why I ended up putting the closed cell phone pad horizontally underneath our feet essentially, so he would at least have that much space covered. And then when Ed got up to go use the bathroom, we just took Perry with us when we went to use the bathroom so that Perry could also use the bathroom. I scooched my pad closer to his and then it was like staying here. So because my pad was kind of in the middle of the tent and Ed's was up against the door with my body weight like keeping my sleeping pad in place, it kept everything like where it was, and that worked out really well, I think, for the back half of the night.
Yeah, that was definitely better. I liked having us together. And Perry was pretty snuggly at first, too. He took up a good chunk of the foot of my pad for a little while.
He seemed to really like your sleeping bag.
Yeah, there was
like
something
he
about
wanted
my
to be on
sleeping bag
your
that he
stuff.
was finding comfortable. Yeah, and the bag specifically, too. Maybe just the texture or so, I don't know. But it did roll off a little bit. But yeah, he was kind of refusing to go anywhere else, which was fine because it was good for my feet anyway.
Yeah, true. So I'm wondering if it was just not enough ground insulation for him last time. Plus, having a second large mammal in the tent probably helps like warm that space up a little more than when it was just Perry and I. But either way, I didn't wake up to find him like shivering in a ball. In fact, a lot of the night he was actually sleeping more like stretched out, where he wasn't even tucked up into himself for
wasn't
warmth.
Curled up on himself.
Yeah, so I think he did really well as far as temperature, and we still like had the option to add a rumple. And obviously, like once I get a better jacket for him and things like that, we can always put that on him before he curls up to go to bed if it is colder or if he is shivering or something like that. So I think he's going to be okay with that.
Yeah, it seemed like, and he did tolerate the rumple for at least a little bit here and there. I don't know, I don't know if we could get him to stay under it all night at this point for sure.
Yeah.
But like, I think there's room for him to grow into that a little bit more and rely on it when he needs to.
Yeah. Like when he first got into the tent, he seemed a little bit anxious. We were wondering if maybe the way the noise like bounced off the tent walls and just the the nylon and polyester just like rustling together. Speaking of Perry, wrestling together was weirding him out a little bit because when he first got into the tent, he was a little anxious and he just like laid down and I put the rumple over him and he just like wouldn't move for a little bit, but eventually he got more comfortable and snuggled up where he wanted to be and was fine. So in conclusion, I think all of us are fine for at least a 30-degree night, which is nice because we can get down to at least freezing. We did have a little campfire cookout for dinner, and so we dumped water on the fire, a lot of it, to make sure it was out before we went to bed in our little fire pan, and it was cold enough that pan froze, so we have a frozen bowl of ash and wood and water, so it was cold enough to like freeze something like that, so it definitely got that little bit below freezing, so we can at least be confident going down to about 30 degrees.
Yeah, it's a good start. Thank you for encouraging me to do it.
Yes. She'll take you on all the trips. I want to go to Montana, which is much further north than here and can get much colder, especially in the winter, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what your sleep system is down in the comments and hit subscribe if you want to see some more of our adventures. Bye!
Bye.